limits the talk. I can't ask any questions.
Okay.
Someone else is going to have to do it.
Yeah, it seems that there would be other areas of physics that would have to use imagery as well. Because quantum physics, for example, is a different scale. Or even Einstein is also talking about objects that are not in our scale of everyday life. What do you think about the imagery of string theory that you think is, I guess, specific to it? Do you think that it's a little bit we're being misled with the imagery, or?
I mean, that's sort of critics of artists who, or humanities, people who adapt images from string theory or other forms of scientific knowledge would make that complaint that it is misleading, it's a distortion. But I wouldn't necessarily say that. I wouldn't call it a distortion. I would say that even though science, and string theory in particular, may in its meta-discourse repudiate the image and say that all of the truth is in the mathematics, nevertheless, because they keep using these images, it's doing something. It's a kind of dogmatization. And the question isn't, the interesting question to me is not just to dismiss it as distortion, but to ask, well, how and why are they re-employing these images? What's at stake here? And with the case of popular accounts, I think one of the things that's at stake is they're trying to sell books, of course. They're trying to make string theory sexy, but they're also justifying their own work to themselves. The imaginary ties into the practice of doing string theory in a very interesting way through this kind of mesocosm. The romance of string theory is something that the theorists themselves very much buy into and want to sell and convince other people the value of. About your other question about images and other forms of theoretical physics, I would say absolutely yes. They have their own kind of stock set of images, and string theory in some sense does borrow from those. It certainly borrows from general relativity because it's largely an attempt to reconcile general relativity with quantum theory. So it borrows ideas of the warping and bending of space-time, for example. And then, of course, it borrows from quantum theory this idea of the particle zoo, this particle spectrum. So I think with those particular forms of theories, you can also ask the same question. How is the meta-discourse framed around quantum theory or around general relativity? It may turn out to be different than it is in string theory. And it's beyond the scope of my research, but it's something I want to get to in the future, is taking the same methodology and applying it to, for example, electromagnetism or Newtonian gravitation.